released.
Okay, I would just like to ask if, you think of something that, might be helpful and beneficial to us, if you or one of your aides or something could contact, Superintendent Brunel and just put a bug in her ear, and then she could pass that along to us, because I think as a committee, we would all be very appreciative and be willing to, help and initiate anything that you think, could be helpful moving forward.
Well, actually, this mental health issue was really something that we did. We reached out to your superintendent, to some of the others, and I can tell you they were a great asset. I mean, we have an idea of how we can try to help the school districts, but she's really the one on doing the day-to-day services that can help us develop the programs. And so we're hoping that we put a good model. With so much focus being put on mental health right now and mental health services, we're hoping that we've gone in there with a very specific plan, from job descriptions to referrals and a budget showing what people's salaries and who's going to run the programs. Rather than going in there with just a broad brush saying we want to develop a mental health program, it's a very specific and detailed pilot program that we want to run. And again, a lot of that comes from the superintendent and the other superintendents in the area. Again, you're really doing the day-to-day, the hard work. We really need your input. I know, I know the mandates comes up, but is there anything else that you think that we can try to provide? My phone and door is always open, please.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions? Before I put you on the spot, I want to thank you, as Rita stated, for flipping pancakes at the breakfast Sunday, and also for attending and participating in our reading day at Bryn Mawr School today. I know you have a very busy schedule, and we appreciate you reading to our kids. But I know you've taken a stance on other building school projects, and right now we're in the process of the Auburn Middle School. It's going to be coming up May 7th into the town meeting, and then May 21st to the voters. I'm just curious if you have an opinion or a stance on our project going forward in the funding source.
Well, even going back to the years I was on the Board of Selectmen, I have seen many communities, when they have the opportunity for funding from the Commonwealth at reimbursement rates much higher than they're offering, that we offer today, seeing communities pass up those opportunities, only to never see them come back again at the same levels of funding. I think it's very fiscally prudent and responsible of the town to be pursuing this funding of for the funding of the middle school. Again, if you're looking long term, if we're going to, one of the greatest investments you can make in your community is your education system and your kids. So I think this is actually I endorse. I think this is a great initiative that the school committee, the Board of Selectmen, and anyone involved in is trying to seek. So I think it's a good idea for the school. Because again, if you miss this opportunity, it may not come up again for 5 years or 10 years. I mean, you just don't know. If we would hit a bad stretch, where resources again get dwindled, you don't know what's going to happen. What's the percentage right now?
58.6. 58.61%.
Which is relatively high. I think Grafton was maybe 56, or Shrewsbury right around the same. And they were both successful in doing it. But I think long term for the town, this is a good investment for you to make.
I'm very happy to hear your endorsement
Thank
of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Senator Moore, just on behalf of the Auburn Schools, to thank you for your tremendous support of education. Obviously, it is a priority of mine, but all of us here at this table. So your continued support, and also your initiative in bringing forward that mental health bill. I think it has the potential to really provide some great opportunities, assistance for children who really need it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes.
I echo the same thing as the superintendent, but I would like to say too, not only but education, for how much you do for the residents of the town of Auburn. And I want to thank you personally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, how are you funding the school? Is it through a levy or tax?
Debt exclusion.
Debt exclusion? No, I'm sure you all know, but the debt exclusion, the funding only stays with the term of the project. As soon as the project is completed, then the burden on the tax levy is then gone. So actually, again, I think that it is a good process to go by, because it also gives the members of the community the opportunity to vote on the project. So besides getting a rubber stamp from the elected officials, you're also getting a rubber stamp and a vote of approval from your community. So I commend you for choosing that process also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should.
I do have a letter Representative Frost sent today and asked that I read it aloud to you this evening as he was not able to be here. Dear Auburn School Committee and Superintendent Mary Ellen Brunel, please accept my regrets for not being able to attend your meeting today to discuss state budget matters. This is due to a conflict with an Auburn school function going on at the same time that 2 of my daughters are participating in this evening. I look forward to meeting with you in the near future. I would, however, like to take this opportunity to share with you the House Ways and Means FY14 state budget, which was released earlier today. As you are all aware, this release of the House version of the budget is not final. The House will convene the week of April 22nd to debate this version of the state budget, in which amendments may or may not alter it. Under the House Ways and Means budget, Auburn is slated to receive $8,001,445 for Chapter 70, which is an increase of $58,625 in what Auburn received in the FY13 final budget. Auburn, under this House Ways and Means version, provides $1,482,780 in unrestricted local aid, formerly known as lottery aid, which would mean an increase of $34,240 over FY13. Please note, for years including last January, I have supported mandating the House and/or the Senate to release an early local aid resolution by mid-March to give our towns more time to plan for their annual or spring town meetings. Unfortunately, such efforts do not pass but for a handful of times over the years, and this year there was no early local aid resolution. I truly believe if our towns could at least get an idea what the House and/or Senate will do as to minimum local aid number, then our communities could have another set of numbers other than the governor's budget recommendation to work with or work from. As mentioned above, the Massachusetts House will debate the state budget during the week of April 22nd. Once the House adopts its version of the FY14 state budget, it will go before the state Senate sometime in May. After the Senate adopts its version, the 2 legislative branches will work out their differences and report out one final version of the state budget to send to the governor's desk. This will hopefully be done before the end of June. There have been times in years past the final version of the budget was not adopted in the legislature until after July 1st. Thank you for your time and attention to this letter, and I do look forward to giving you an update of the House budget session in person. Please do not hesitate to contact me or call my office if we can be of any further assistance to the Auburn Public Schools and all those you serve. Sincerely, Paul K. Frost, State Representative.
We can move now to the New England Championship track meet.
Great. This next item, as you know, any out-of-state field trips require the approval of the school committee. And this one here is intended, it's very vague, but as you note, as I noted in here, there are students who have the potential to be invited to the New England Championship track meet, which will be held in Burlington, Vermont on Saturday, June 8th. We will not know until 1 week prior to that championship meet who, if any of our students, have qualified. We did have one student who qualified last year and who competed, but his family had a home nearby, so he stayed there and his parents transported him. So what I'm looking for from you this evening is the approval of this trip. Obviously, we would coordinate it with transportation for the students and would require that they stay over. It's a 4-hour ride actually to get to Burlington, Vermont for this meet. But I'd ask that you approve this meet, and I will report back to you as soon as we know if any of our students qualify for it.
I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Auburn High School track athletes' participation in the New England Championship track meet.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I got just a couple quick questions. Dr. Brunel, would we be, is there a number? For instance, if only three athletes make it, will we sponsor transportation for just 3? I'm trying to just understand the
We
scope
would.
of this.
So different sports teams that we have different numbers of students on them. So we would, unless parents know, there have been opportunities where parents have decided that they want to go up and stay and watch their children in the meets. So we would check and see if that was something that they were interested in doing. But if not, we would typically provide transportation.
Okay,
We
so
would
it'd be
not take them on a bus.
transportation and overnight stay?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say about
We would
the
not
bus?
send them on it would probably work to get a van. So they would not, if there were 3 students coming on a school
So we're not talking
bus.
about coaches driving them?
No,
or
not coaches driving them.
Other kids driving other
Correct.
kids?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Moving on.
We're all set? We just
All
need
those
to
in
vote.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's a vote.
The next item, it is my pleasure, I know that I have kept you abreast as we have moved through this process. As we know, Mr. Dede is leaving the Auburn Public Schools. Its final effective date is, date of resignation is May 31st, 2013. We certainly wish him well, and we worked, obviously, to have a replacement for him. So both Mrs. Gibbrey and Mr. Lurie served on that initial team. We brought forward finalists, and it's my pleasure actually to recommend to you Mr. Peter Gray, who is here with us this evening. If you have any questions that you would like to ask him, he would certainly be willing to do so. If you want to come to the podium, Peter. Peter comes to us from Hamilton Wenham, having served as the school business manager there. So perhaps, through the chair, if that's okay, if you can just tell a little bit about yourself and your experiences.
Well, once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm still getting through with a cold, so I really don't sound like this most of the time. But my experience in public school systems have been about 10 years, 7 in the state of Maine, and the last 3 years here in Massachusetts. As Dr. Burnell said, I'm the business manager at Hamilton Wenham, which is a regional school district right outside of Beverly, Mass. As I finished my tenure there, one of the things that I was looking for was a school district that wasn't mired in turmoil in issues as where I am right now. I really was looking for a district that was thinking most of all about the kids, about making sure that we're providing 21st century skills for college and career ready students, and where there was some stability at the top. So I was very pleased, and I think you should be very proud as a school district that Auburn is one of those that came to the top. I think that in talking to a number of my peers throughout the state, it seems like a lot of school districts are struggling with finances and buildings, which you are too. But ultimately, I think what gets lost in the translation is what are we doing to make sure our children are best prepared to go out into the real world. And so I was very pleased when Dr. Burnell invited me and then made this offer, because I felt this was a district that I could make a contribution to. So I'm very much looking forward to becoming a member of this community and helping you provide that 21st century skill for our kids.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Through the chair, could you just give us a little bit about your personal background, family and such, for the people at home? That
Uh-oh, here comes the surprising part. I have 9 children. No, I do. That's all right. 9 children and 6 grandchildren. I grew up in central New Hampshire, a little small mill town where, it was everybody knew everybody, and it was a great place to grow up and gave me the foundation and my core beliefs and how I feel today. I moved to Maine when I got married. And the one good thing about Maine is that they were very much at the forefront as far as technology. Every student from kindergarten to grade 12 had an Apple in their hands, and I saw a great transformation there, so I'm very pleased to see that the Commonwealth is moving towards a one-on-one environment. And as I said, I could probably write a book on my experiences at Hamilton Wenham, so I'm really looking forward to kind of digging in and having a good working relationship with a district that really cares about their kids. So that's me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Dede?
Through the chair, just want to welcome my colleague, Peter, to Auburn, and I wish you tremendous success in the next several years, and I welcome the opportunity to meet with you and transition the next couple of weeks, as we talked about earlier. So
Well, congratulations to you too, and I think
Thank
one
you.
of the better parts of any job is when you walk in where things are actually moving smoothly and are working well. So Mr. Dede should be very pleased with the fact that one of the reasons I took this job was because I knew that it wasn't a nightmare, that everything was going well, and I look forward to just picking up the reins and hopefully can fill his shoes somewhere down the road. So thank you.
Thank you.
You didn't tell them what great people we had over
And
But you're going to do that
You
now.
missed the important part.
Through the chair, it's been a privilege to work with the committee and Dr. Brunel, and also with the leadership team. And I believe as my days approach, that they will welcome you and embrace you as they did to me almost 8 years ago. And you'll know where to find me if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
So I wish you tremendous success.
Thank you.
just in closing, obviously Leanne and I have a little bit of an advantage sitting on your interview, and just to tell everyone at home, fantastic credentials, you come highly recommended. And you are right, there are big shoes to fill. Dan's done a wonderful job for us, but I know just from talking to people and talking to you in the interview that I know you're going to hit the ground running. And
I'm very excited.
Looking forward to
July
working
1st. Great.
with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
So,
I would like to make the motion to approve the hiring of Mr. Peter Gray as the school business manager of the Auburn Public Schools.
I second that.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Unanimous vote.
Welcome.
Congratulations and welcome.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to, if there's no objection, move up Dr. Lozay so she can tell us her March professional development update. I didn't put you on the spot, did I?
She's good with that kind of thing.
Get this set up. Good evening, everyone. I'm back. It's March or April, so you know I'm going to show up again. Dr. Brunel did ask me to come and give you a brief overview of our recent day. This year, in keeping with our theme of strengthening connections, we did agree to partner with Leicester Public Schools on this particular professional development day. Back in January, I was approached by Dr. Marilyn Tenza, the Director of Curriculum from the Leicester Public Schools, asking if Auburn would be willing to partner with them on this day. I then went and met with her Professional Development Committee and explained all about our March menu day. I wasn't able to scare them away, so they got very excited, and that began some collaboration amongst the two districts. This partnering was new this year, in 2013 with the Leicester Public Schools, and what I found that it not only allowed for a greater variety of offerings of workshops for our teachers, which was originally what I was looking at on our end, but in some of the feedback that we've received, we've seen that the conversation that happened within those workshops, having two districts share their best practice and talk about teaching and learning, actually turned out to be one of the more valuable moments of the day. Also, in anticipation of having to register an extra 120 to 130 people, we decided to try again to use an electronic registration as opposed to paper. We had done that a few years back and we weren't quite very successful. But this year, again, the collaboration between our IT department and the Leicester IT department, we were able to use Google to register over 400 participants in this day, and it really worked out very well, and we'll probably continue to use that going forward. Another feature, anticipating that we would have many newcomers to the high school who didn't know their way around, although we often put up signs, and we did this year as well with room numbers and arrows, we decided to have site maps at each level. Mr. Fahey helped create those. He doesn't want me to say that, but he did. And they were much like what you see at the mall. So you see a big picture and it says you are here, so you can kind of imagine where you're going and navigate the situation. So again, that was an improvement over last year and it worked out very well. In keeping with a lot of our focus this year around rigor, relevance, and relationships, I decided to highlight some of the workshops that were offered. In front of you, you have the entire menu, but I didn't want to belabor that and go through all of them. So under rigor, some of the workshops that were key here were our keynote, which was the key to success, writing well. And this individual came to us from the Maine Writing Project, and he spoke to all of our staff about the necessity for our students, whether they're going forward in careers right from high school or if they're going forward to college, how important writing was. And he shared with our staff many videos around different career people who've gone into technology or science or even x-ray technologists, people who you don't often think of that may do as much writing, telling the staff, and obviously they would share that with their students, that a great majority of their day is spent writing. Even though they look at x-rays or they examine, mechanical features, they are spending a great deal of their day writing. So that was important. We also had MIMSI, AP and pre-AP workshops. Again, here we partnered with Leicester, so many of the Leicester High School and Leicester Middle School people attended this as well. So they talked a lot about how do we get our kids ready for more AP courses. We had our school psychologist and her intern offer the neuropsychology of math disabilities, tell people understand how struggling students, their brains might work a little different, and how we can get strategies to kind of access the math part of their brains a little better. One of the big hits of the day was the next one, the question generation using Bloom's taxonomy to improve comprehension. Bloom's taxonomy has evolved over the last 10 years or so. It really focuses on the higher level thinking. A lot of the way it used to be laid out now is condensed into the lower 3 levels, and they've added on to the higher 3 levels so that the top level becomes actually creating as opposed to the old version of synthesizing. So it's a step above that. All the principals were expressing a desire to have this individual come back next year and do some extensive training with our staff around that. 21st century skills, again, the whole idea of collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, we brought that forth. And then the teaching academic language in WIDA, which is really geared to our ELL, and how do we make the curriculum accessible to them while still keeping it rigorous. Relevance, as you can see from this listing, everything is relevant. We're talking about a new Common Core where writing will be excessively tested actually next year in our new MCAS or PARC testing that will be commencing. We also know that the number sense in terms of mental math strategies is critical. We have the transforming the classroom with iPads. We had that offered for both elementary and middle school, understanding that we are getting more and more of these one-on-one devices within our schools, and we don't want them simply to be a collection of apps, but really how do we transform teaching and learning using these iPads. Cyber safety and cyberbullying, of course, is always relevant. In Mean Girls, which was presented by our own Auburn High School guidance people and Auburn Middle School guidance people together, was very pertinent, as well as they shared actually case studies, of course confidentially, about situations that are ongoing. Relationship building. Adventure-based group work was a big hit. Instead of talking, they showed staff how to actually use hands-on activities, challenge activities for kids to help them deal with conflict with peers. Trauma frozen in time. This was another workshop that we've had. This is the second year we've had this, and we have more requests to bring this back again next year. This really focuses on post-traumatic stress disorder for our military families, as well as for any family dealing with death in their family. It talks about an attachment disorder. A lot of our foster care students that we're getting in our district are experiencing that, so that was very relevant, as well as talked about how you build those relationships and trust. Again, we had the Leicester and Auburn people work together on the science vertical team meetings around AP and pre-AP. Co-teaching, again, brought people together in relationships, both special educators and regular educators. Our mentor training took place that day. Again, building the relationships between the mentor and the mentee, but also helping our mentors understand how they can get their mentees to develop relationships, not only in their building, but across the district. Team building through physical challenge, much like the adventure-based group work, was a different spin that was actually offered by some Leicester staff. So in the course of 7 hours, with one of them for lunch, leaving us 6 hours, on this one day we were able to offer 68 workshops. 80 people presented. Approximately 420 staff were registered, and 150 individuals were lucky enough to participate in the luncheon provided by our own high school students. We don't have all of the results of the evaluations compiled at this point. I took some that I have been able to read, and also I received several emails after the fact, so I wanted to share some of these with you. You can certainly read them yourself. This is the one right here that I'd like you to pay attention to, because this is what I referred to earlier about those rich discussions that took place because we took in educators from another district and they were able to share best practices. And as much as our participant feedback is important, so is the presenter feedback. Some of this was given to me in writing, some came in emails, and oftentimes presenters stopped me throughout the day to provide this feedback. I was very proud of Auburn schools this day. They talked about the educators, how positive and engaged they were. They talked about the event itself, our tech assistants. They were very impressed with. Again, we had that collaboration, so not only did we rely on Mike and Eric, there were people from Leicester that could also provide that service, so it was wonderful. This actually came from one of our presenters who sent this after the fact. He had such a great time, and he talked about the excellence of Auburn. He wants to come back. He's willing to create new surveys. It's funny, I also received an email that I didn't put up here from a woman who we had present in the 2 previous years, and this year we thought we might give her a break. Well, she sent back, oh, I was just thinking, you must have already had that PD day. Why didn't you invite me? I want to come back next year. So even the presenters love it. And this right here, beware. Because based on this, I think we're going to have to put an addition on the Auburn High School next year so that we can also partner with Spencer East Brookfield. And of course, as you all know, no single individual can make these kinds of successful days happen. So I'd like to once again thank all of the Auburn and Leicester educators who actually presented and who came generously and willingly and collaborated with others. The custodial staff at the high school was awesome. Everything was perfectly set up and clean. Joe Fahey ran around as usual, helping everybody that needed any help. Kate Flynn helped with the registration and the organization of the day. The Auburn Public Schools Food Services presented the coffee and again, the high school students at Auburn High for their culture club. I end with this final thought because I believe that this really represents the Auburn Public Schools, who we truly have become. We no longer look at status quo. We're always looking to give more and better service. And I think in the remarks that you read from people outside our district as well, you can see that. We should be very proud. We are Auburn.
Are there any questions or comments?
I'm just, yet again, very impressed and appreciative and very glad.
I have a couple.
What is this?
Of the 420 staff that were registered, how many were from Auburn, and what percentage
We have
does that?
approximately 300 staff, so approximately 120 came from Leicester.
Okay, okay. And I thought it was great that you had somebody come in and talk about the key to success in writing well. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that every job now, I mean, you can't, people don't walk down to the office next to them, they email the person, and to be able to write and explain what you're trying, your thoughts, is extremely important in this day of technology. What are you taking away from that, and how are we going to take what you've gotten and apply it here in the Auburn Public Schools? Have you thought about that yet, or will we hear more about that?
Yeah. Well, I think he planted the seed during the keynote. He then offered breakout work sessions that staff has attended. So they are coming back with some of the ideas that they garnered from him as well.
Right.
But yes, it spoke directly to SAT writing, Common Core writing. He also talked a lot, which I thought was very important, not only about the English language arts people being good teachers of writing, but how our science teachers have to be good teachers of writing.
And the reason I made a comment about this is because having children that have gone through the Auburn Public Schools and even one that is still here, I have to say that it has to go across all the classes, because even in math, you know, anytime a student writes, a teacher should be showing a student how to be a better writer. Just because it's a math class doesn't mean they shouldn't comment on how that student has written an explanation to a math problem. So I hope that is going to happen, or is happening more. And also, I just wanted to say that as I looked at the things that you had here to offer, we're talking not, and I just for the public, and just to kind of remind people, teachers and administrators are no longer just looking at making sure we've got the curriculum right and we're teaching students, but we're dealing with bullying, we're dealing with post-traumatic stress. I mean, our teachers and our administrators are dealing with a gamut of topics that we have to deal with our kids, and you do a great job. You all do a great job in trying to get every child the services they need. So, thank you very much.
Any other comments? I'll obviously reiterate or echo what my colleagues stated. And us going forward dealing with some budgetary issues, it's very nice when you come in and you explain to us what they're facing when we have to deal with certain issues budgetarily. So I appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us, and I do. I know you give kudos to your staff, but you do a wonderful job too, and I thank you so much, Dr. Lozay.
Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you for saying that, because as Dr. Lozay said, she gave credit to a lot of people, but it was just a tremendous day, and it has been each year. And the people from Leicester, I actually had the opportunity to meet with the superintendent from Leicester today, and she could not be more appreciative of having included them. So it really was a tremendous day. So thank you.
Did you want to move back to? Or did you want to stay out of order?
Go to the capital projects.
Why don't we do that?
All right.
We're going to move now, if there's no objection, Mr. Fahey and Mr. Didi, the capital projects update.
Through the chair, just the baseball season, so that being said, I would be the leadoff hitter for this dual presentation, Mr. Fahey. Just a couple of quick updates. Number one, we have two procurements out there. The first, I have them here tonight, is the Auburn High track resurfacing project. This was a project that we put out to bid last spring, and the bid was rejected because it came in much higher than was budgeted at that time. Since then, we now have access to the FY12 CIP funds, which should help us tremendously in financing this project. This project has been posted in Central Register. Legal notices is available online on the district's, the business office webpage. There's also a copy here as well. The second procurement, the second IFB that we have out is for the Auburn Middle School project. This is the HVAC project. As you know, last fall's town meeting, we appropriated $27,417. This is now out to bid. That project went live, if you will, this afternoon. Documents are available here in central office and also online as well. Just to bring to your attention, for the FY12 CIP equipment, there's a balance there, approximately $91,000 and change. Those dollars have already been committed. As you know, we are using those dollars to fund our copier lease. We flipped our fleet, as I've said many a time, this past December, and so those dollars have been committed for the duration. In the FY13 equipment CIP, we've had one purchase to date. Mrs. Pitson, as part of that plan, purchased some new equipment with a value of just under $5,000. She and I met this afternoon to discuss further additional purchases for that equipment as part of the FY13 CIP. There are, as you can see, some balances remaining, and As we note, a lot is predicated upon the middle school project, and also a lot is predicated upon the master plan study as well. And there is one other project that admittedly has taken us a little longer than expected, simply because things happen, crises happen, and we tend to drop them and address the crises. That we're still working on the high school HVAC project. As you know, there was a value of $436,000 and change remaining from that building project. And Mr. Fay and I have a meeting next Thursday with the third party of our team to finalize a designer for that project as well. Again, taking us a little bit slower than expected, again, because other things happen and we tend to address those. That being said, because Mr. Fay is a far better baseball player than I, he gets to hit cleanup. Mr. Fay.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. No sense in me in the cleanup hitter here, Dan. You said it all, which was great for me. The hardest part tonight for me was shutting off the as we were watching, which I've successfully done. So,
I thought there was supposed to be a presentation behind me. I'm looking at my notes.
I think it's for everybody. Again, Dan spoke about the two projects that we're doing this summer. We're going to be continued to do in picking away at our CIP through our buildings that we feel need to have the emergency things done now. So. That being said, we're going to continue with the Bryn Mawr project, bringing it up to ADA compliance. We're going to be restructuring the sidewalks over at Bryn Mawr. We're going to do a little bit everywhere as much as we can in the time frame that we have. It's a very short window that we have to work.
If I may, through the chair, only that we had leadership today, and Mr. Fahey did pass out. We do continue to pass out, and Mr. Fahey does the trophies for energy savings as well as for recycling. So perhaps you can announce who received them this month. Do you remember?
It's a long time ago, yes. Each month, as we know, we do a monthly kilowatt savings, and we award a trophy out to each school. This previous month went to the high school. And what I did differently this time, instead of just giving the kilowatts, we rolled it over to real dollars. So at least they see now the real dollars that they're saving each month. Because basically a kilowatt's a kilowatt. We could care less, you know. But when you transport that onto a dollar, they start to think twice. So I think, you barely put me on the spot, but I think the high school was
A little over 1,000.
about $1,400, I believe. Second place winner went to Dewey Bancroft. Third place winner went to Packagug. So, and as we all know how competitive our leadership team is, next month, I'm sure the other schools will do as best they can to get that trophy.
I am happy to report that Central Office did finally receive it. Was it last month?
Yes.
And we did have a cold school committee meeting, but it was worth it. Oh, no. Well, I did want to win the trophy, but we did finally win it. So.
Is that what the flashlights were for?
Yes.
Great job.
Yes.
When do you think that the air conditioning will be done at the high school? I mean, is that hard to tell since you haven't awarded it?
It is hard to tell. It depends on the design. It depends what they come up with. It might be a very, I'm making this sound simple, a very easy retrofit onto the roof, where there's no disruption to the classrooms, or it might require going into the classrooms. So really, that's why it's so key to get the right designer for this project.
And I'm assuming if you have to go into the classrooms, you'll be doing it when the students aren't there.
Correct, that will be.
Do that, okay. And then, one other question, if I can?
Yes.
The field for the high school, the artificial turf, how's that going? Everything good?
Everything's going good. Everything's going fine. I haven't done my spring inspection yet, but as of the fall one, I believe we're okay.
Good. Okay, great, thanks. You do a great job.
Thank you very much.
As always, thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. If I may, through the chair, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question. This will get posted onto the website, correct?
Through the chair, it's already up there.
Great. Thank you very much.
And through the chair, if I may, I ran year-to-date budget reports. Actually, I had this on the agenda for the 3rd, so I think the budget reports that I ran, they're late March, but those are there as well. Again, if I may, through the chair, every dime that we spend is posted up there, be they the CIP, the operating budget, the revolving funds, the grant updates, they're all up there. This here is in a CIP folder on the webpage.
If I may make just one more comment to the chair. Dr. Burnell, I want to really congratulate and show my appreciation to you and Mr. Dede. Just publishing these and getting them up on the website so they're available to the community, I think, really helps the community. They're able to go out and really look at things and get a better understanding of our finances and how we go about managing the money and everything. So I know this is a lot of work, Dan, but I do appreciate you and your staff, keeping that information up to date, because I think it's one of the things that the community had asked for many years ago, and so this is just, it's really a great thing that we continue to do that, and I do appreciate all the work that's put into that.
Well, through the chair, Dan and his team do a great job, so thank you for saying that.
So what we're going to do is to show our potential new business manager how accommodating we are. If there are no objections, I'd like to move to out of order to new business and call up Ms. Pitson in regards to the price change request for food service.
Good evening. You did receive some information in your packet. I don't know if you had any questions after reading that, but basically what's happening, because of our increase, particularly in things that we can't always control the price of, fresh fruits and vegetables, we've added so many onto our menu, and we actually have also had in Massachusetts a change in some of the a la carte laws. So this has also impacted some of the extra money that was actually supporting the price of lunch for the students. And also along with that, we need to come to a level for the paid student that equals the price of the free student in the federal program. That's part of the new Healthy, Hunger-Free Children Act. And that's meant so that districts who have high free and reduced, the free and reduced students are not supporting the paid student. Everybody is trying to pay an equal, or should be paying an equal share. So these are some of the factors in looking at why we're looking at a price, or why I'm asking that we consider a price increase tonight. Right now, we're not this year in the black. We have been in many years past, which is a good thing. But this year we are struggling with some of our plate costs, and it really is something that as we go forward will continue to be a problem if we don't get an increase at this point in time.
I would entertain a motion.
I think Mr. Dede has something.
Just a comment. This was a hot topic yesterday on the Business Managers Listserv. I've talked about the listserv in the past, and one of my colleagues put it out there. How many districts are anticipating a shortfall given these new requirements, and there's a hot topic when the emails start to fly across the listserv. And I'm actually happy to share this with the committee at our next meeting. And there were a multitude of districts, just given the new requirements that once ran positive programs that are anticipating various shortfalls given the new regulations. So it's a hot topic out there for sure.
If I may, through the chair, and I apologize because I'm trying to recall, but I believe we had some statistics that were provided to us a while ago, and we were actually lower than all the, if not most of them.
We were certainly, through the chair,
We
we were one of the very much lower than
Yeah,
the neighboring districts,
I recall
yes,
that.
correct.
Yeah, I actually have the sheet here if you wanted to see it. We are the lowest district
Yeah, I
around.
thought so. If I had recalled that information. In addition to that, there is also the mandate per se that we're supposed to be.
Could we
I'm
stop,
sorry.
cease
I
for a minute? Could
apologize.
we, I'd entertain a motion in a second, then we can
Oh,
discuss.
yeah.
Who made the motion?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yep, continue, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. I believe, Mrs. Pitson, there was right, we're supposed to be meeting some
Yes, we're
government
supposed to be
regulation or?
meeting the level that a free lunch is funded through the federal government, which right at this point in time is $2.65. So that's the level, the federal government says this would be fair for people to pay in order to receive a nutritious and healthy lunch. And they obviously don't want, basically they do not want systems to fall backwards in trying to do this and not being able to charge an appropriate fee for a lunch.
I'm sorry, I've got another question, if I may. If the rate is $2.65, is it an average rate from for the district? And the reason I'm asking that is
Yes, if
you're
we-
going 15 cents lower on the elementary, but 15 cents
Right.
higher, so it's an average. So as long as
Right,
we meet the
yes, as long as we
265.
averaged out between
Okay.
the two, we'd be
Okay.
hitting the middle.
Okay, great, thank you.
And this,
Yes.
and this price increase you feel confident will bring you into the black?
It should, yes, it should next year. We've actually learned a lot this year. The start of this year was a really difficult year for us. And I think the staff has learned how to better order food. We've also learned some of the things that the students like in particular. So we've moved more of those into the menu. The federal government, in their wisdom, has actually changed some of their ruling a bit. So we've moved our menu back a little bit to the way it was last year. Some of the students preferred that. So all things total, we hopefully that will get us into the black and stay there.
And I imagine that that's not unusual with other districts, that they had a year of fluctuation.
Well, everybody
because- Yeah,
on my
it is.
email, as well as Dan's email, has been crying and gnashing of teeth. Yes, yeah, it's been, for us, it was kind of a double whammy because Massachusetts imposed new rules and the federal government said, here you go, here's some brand new rules. And rather than doing some things gradually, we jumped in with both feet. And as we know, change is very difficult for everybody. And eating is a basic to humanity. So that's something when some of our students, particularly at the high school level, have gotten used to a certain way of eating. And when you change that on them, they don't take that lightly.
I know because it happens at my house. So,
The only question I have, and it's just because you have involvement there as well, I'm curious to know what Leicester's school lunch fees are?
$3 across the board.
$3 across the board. Are there any other questions?
To the chair, just one. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, as you do. Where will this put us? Will this put us somewhere in the middle?
It'll put us, I can actually share the paper if you want. It will put us just about level with Oxford and Spencer. And Sutton, actually. Sutton is $275 across the board. Spencer is also $275 across the board right now. And Oxford is $245 at elementary, up to $320 at high school. So that's where we'll fall.
And what is the high on that list?
The highest is Shrewsbury. They're $350 at the high school and $3 at elementary.
Probably serving caviar.
Does every school district have the same $2.65 that they have to, that's the
Yes, they do,
minimum
and
amount?
what some people have done, I think Bay Path might be one, it was suggested by DESE that perhaps you do an increment every single year, which is really very hard for the students, the staff, and parents, I think. You know, just to say, okay, this year you're 10 cents more, next year you're 10 cents more.
Right.
That was one of their theories, you could do that. So some systems have actually done that, and are still doing that. That's why some of the prices I gave you are kind of odd prices. For example, Grafton is $2.45 for an elementary. That's kind of a strange, you know, price. It's not an even price.
But will they have to bring that up to $2.65?
They should, yes.
So we will still be at the bottom, because the minimum amount has to be $2.65, right? So.
Right. But we're moving up. I mean,
Well,
we're
I'm not
moving
suggesting
to.
that that's a bad thing.
No, we're moving to a
So-
point where it's
Right.
affordable, and I still think, you know, and I think that it will give us the opportunity to provide the best food we can for the price that we're charging.
No, I didn't suggest that that was a bad thing. Kudos to you for being able to keep it at $2.65 when we see other school systems going, you know, above $3. So
It's-
if we can do it, that's great.
Wayne?
That's basically what I was going to say too, Liz, is I'm glad that Auburn's on the bottom when it comes to paying. And I would like to say is, being on a school committee for almost 10 years, I've dealt with you through the thing, from there to now, and still continue to. And I think you've done a tremendous job to keep that price down for the children in Auburn and the parents and the school committee. And I just would like to thank you. And there's not too many times that I actually turn around and want to support putting more money for parents and everything to pay. But in this situation, I think the way you handle this over the years, and you come here and you explain everything, and you have the knowledge that you do, that I have faith in you, that this is something that needs to be done. Thank you.
I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
You have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Pitson.
You're all dismissed.
Well, do you want
Dismiss the,
to do the wellness?
Oh, yes,
program?
actually, through the chair, if I may, while Mrs. Pitson is here, she led a group of administrators that did the review of the wellness policy. It is my recommendation that we approve this on first reading this evening, and if you have any questions, Mrs. Pitson could certainly answer them.
I'll make the motion that we approve the Auburn Wellness Policy as written for first reading.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is a vote.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to dismiss it? I guess they're going to wait for the
Yes.
comments, okay.
If everyone would like to leave for the evening, feel free to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah, but- Except Wayne.
Thanks, everybody.
Jeez.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
So,
We'll move back to the quarter, under the superintendent's report, the quarterly report of SWCC.
yes, this is the third quarterly report. I share it with you and ask that you approve the motion as recommended, which is indicating that you have received it. This is part of the new collaborative regulations.
Entertain a motion?
I'm sorry, where are we? We're back to what? I'm
Back
sorry.
on the first page,
Okay.
excuse me, quarterly report for Southern Worcester County.
I make a motion to accept the quarterly report as prepared by Mr. Julian McDonald, Executive Director of the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative, for the period of January to March 2013.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is a vote.
The next item, I wanted to make you aware of, there was a congressional art competition actually taking place today from 11 to 4, and then tomorrow from 11 to 4, and then Friday from 11 to 8. There's an artist reception, and this is the second congressional district show that's being sponsored by Congressman McGovern. We do have students who have submitted works of art to that, so I'd like to recognize them and congratulate them for having had their talents representing the Auburn Public Schools. So Serena Shergai, Devin Eads, Alicia Ellis, Renee Fleming, Kayla Hathaway, Gianna DeMonaco, Emily Usher, and Ashley Bakunis. So congratulations to them, but also to Ms. Halsdorf, who was the Auburn High teacher. I think I've brought forward to you a number of different events this year, not only from the high school, but from other schools as well. So it really is shining a bright light on our students and their talent. And then finally wanted, April being National Volunteer Month, I did write my Rockets review that would have been published this past week regarding that, but also want to extend thanks to all of you. You put in a tremendous amount of time as members of the school committee, and it's all for volunteer efforts, but do know that it is appreciated.
Now we can move on to unfinished business.
Back in the fall, if you remember, a parent brought forward a request to have there be no lighting fee to use the tennis courts. We did include in this packet the same information that was provided back in the fall. I did have a meeting with Town Manager Jacobson, Mr. Kazanovich, Mr. Coyle, and Mr. Fahey and I were involved. It was part of other meetings, items I should say, that we were discussing. Any other lit areas in town that require, or that a resident was to request, whether it's up at the Pappas Field, all come with a usage fee. And I understand that there's some concern around that, but it's really about trying to recoup monies that are paid out for lighting that is provided. Included in here, and these were actually, Mrs. Ottner had done this review, so if we looked at as of today, sunset was at 7:23, so it is available in lit with the natural sunlight up until, after 7 o'clock. And obviously, as we continue to move into the warmer weather and more into spring and ultimately summer, it will be even later. So it is my recommendation that you stay with the current fee schedule as approved by you most recently back in October of 2011.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I just have one question. I didn't know if we even had to do this, but was a parent notified that we were having this tonight?
Yes, I did. I actually called and spoke with his wife earlier in the week just to make him aware and also share what my recommendation would be as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
So vote. Now we'll move to the Auburn Middle School project update.
We, just as a reminder, I've announced to you the last time that town meeting will vote on May 7th and the voters in Auburn on May 21st. Mr. Laurie, I believe, has something he would like to share, and I did draft, which Mr. Laurie will share, the letter at your request from last meeting.
Just briefly, a couple of things. One I should have brought up when our senator was here. Monday night at the meeting, things were discussed in regards to the funding source of the project, whether it be a debt exclusion, the word override was used, and utilizing excess levy. And all three funding sources are different. I just wanted the board and the public to be aware of it. I went on the Mass Department of Revenue's website, and a debt exclusion is basically the additional amount for the payment of debt service is added to the levy limit ceiling for the life of the debt only, meaning when the debt, if we own a house for 20 years, once our 20-year mortgage is done, we don't pay anymore. Basically, a 2.5 override, and this is according to the Mass Department of Revenue website, I'm just giving you the short version. The override results in a permanent increase in the levy limit of a community, which is part of the levy limit base increases at the rate of 2.5% each year. So basically, that stays within the budget forever. So you're paying rent, in essence, by doing that. When the building's paid off, you continue to pay that 2.5%. And excess levy, what we talked about, is obviously basically the town's insurance policy, and there's no guarantee that that is going to be retired at the end of the 20 years as well, as time passes. So I just wanted the public to be aware of that. And also a statement was made, and checking with people, by not utilizing the excess levy will not jeopardize state funding. That won't affect that. So, and when our legislatures come in next time, we can ask them to give us more detail. But I asked that question yesterday to a couple of people that are legislators, and they said no, that it wouldn't affect. So I can only tell you what I was told. Dr. Brunel did, as we requested when we voted at our last meeting, unanimously to support the project, draft a letter. So I'll read that so the public can hear it. This letter of support for the proposed new Auburn Middle School. Since 2007, when the statement of interest was approved by the MSBA, the entire school building committee, under the leadership of Mark Imsey, chairperson, has been working diligently to bring forward the best solution to address the issue of overcrowding at the Auburn Middle School. After much study and deliberation, the preferred option of building new on West Street was determined. This preferred option was overwhelmingly supported by the members of the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and School Committee at the joint collaborative meeting of June 14, 2012. Throughout this process, the Auburn School Committee has been kept apprised of developments, each of which has been approved by the MSBA and strongly supported by us. Bringing a new state-of-the-art middle school online will be a gift to the middle schoolers of today and tomorrow, a true investment in the future of Auburn. Further, as voted on November 19, 2012 at a joint collaborative meeting, we continue to support the middle school being paid for by debt exclusion. The primary reason being we believe the voters of Auburn deserve a say in whether to support this nearly $45 million project, and the fact that debt will be retired in 20 years when it is paid in full. We would like to thank the entire school building committee for bringing forward what we believe to be the most educationally appropriate and fiscally sound project that has our full and unequivocal support. Sincerely, Jeffrey Glory, Chairperson, Elizabeth Gribbins, Member, Wayne Page, Vice Chair, George Colby, Member, Leanne Gibbrey, Secretary. So I'm going to sign this. Pass it down. So if there are no further questions, I would just like to say to the public, if you do have any questions, to please reach out to any one of us so we can answer your questions. And I'll do so up until
Whenever.
the votes take place, yes.
I think there was a comment that was made the other night about us, the desire that we don't hurry into something. And I think this letter states so well that we've been doing that. We've been working on this since 2007. So that is 6 years that we have been really working diligently to make sure that the best plan has been brought forward. So kudos to the School Buildings Committee.
And I agree. I think it's very important, and I've heard comments from people that we do take a leadership role in educating the public because there is a large cost to this. You know, whether you support the project or you don't, we're all entitled to our opinions and free speech to say what we want to say on this project. So if someone does have any issues or concerns, as many residents have done already, please, I encourage you to call me or email you, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Yes, through the chair. At that meeting, at the Board of Selectmen meeting the other evening, I heard the comment that nothing is etched in stone, a lot of things can change, this and that, nothing's in concrete. Well, I just want to make it clear that something is in concrete. If this passes on May 21st, it's in concrete, the concrete will be poured, we will be getting the reimbursement that's been promised us, and we will be getting a middle school. So that's for sure. That is one thing that we can count on. Secondly, as Dr. Brunel just said, this is a volunteer position. What we do here, we're volunteers. This is for the good of the community. This is why we do it. And I just want to thank our chairperson, Chairperson Laurie, for going the extra mile, providing the facts, bringing them forward, and for an excellent presentation, and for continuing to work on this. Thank you.
I thank you for that, and I think it's important to mention, as Senator Moore did, it's close to $20 million reimbursement we're looking at, and as the high school project dragged on for so many years, we lost a lot of potential funding that we could have had in place, and even our percentages now are higher, as he said, from the Shrewsbury-Grafton projects that just came to completion or went online. I think Shrewsbury was very recently with the dedication, last couple of days. So, and like I said this, I'll say it again, no ill will towards anyone, but obviously if someone has an opinion, I would expect us all to address it if we have other facts or a countering argument, and that's all I'm trying to accomplish now, and I respect everyone involved in this process, and whether they agree with my opinion or this committee's opinion, I thank them, for the opportunity to bring the questions up so we can at least try and provide the answers. Yes, Wayne.
The only thing I'd like to say, when it comes down to it, we're trying to get out all the information for the public, truthful facts. So they have an understanding when they go to the poll, what's happening with the middle school. The reimbursement, every phase of the school that we've done through School Buildings Committee, this committee, everybody has worked together to get out the truth and the facts. And that's what this is about. And not only that, but every committee that's involved said, send this to the voters, let them decide. That's where it's going to be decided, and it's going to be you, the residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, moving on to the superintendent's evaluation.
Just a reminder again that in the next packet on May 1st, you will have a complete update from me, and you'll also receive blank evaluation documents for you to complete, and with those being announced publicly on the 15th. Actually, this looks like it's on the, so they'll be due back to Chairperson Lori, I'm sorry, on the 15th, and publicly announced on June 5th.
Moving on to...
Great. The Green Community Grant update, to keep you apprised on this, as noted, Mr. Fahey and I have had several meetings with Mr. Burney, Ms. Jacobson, and Mr. Kazanovich, and as you know, we're splitting the value of that grant in terms of in-kind purchases and in-kind services. So we've got a large-scale relighting project for Auburn High School, and I know that it was only opened back in 2006, but the technologies continue to improve, so we should see long-term benefit from that, as well as updates that were made to some of our cafeteria equipment to save money as well. So happy to report that that work is ongoing. The bus applications, as a reminder, are due May 1st. We'll have an email notification going to our students' families again tomorrow that will notify them of that information, and those bus applications do continue to trickle in, noting here that we've received 341 to date as compared to 303 at this time last year, so a little bit ahead. And that was as of last week probably, so you have probably updated.
Got an update from late this afternoon, 421. And there was still, through the chair, and there was a pile that I didn't go through, so that number is actually even greater than that.
Great.
Good. That's good news.
It is.
Real good.
Through the chair.
Sorry? Yes, I'm sorry, George.
And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Just curious what happens to the old lighting? Is that something that we throw away? Is it something that's usable to someone else? No. I know it would go against everything that is green
Right.
to put those lights somewhere else, but it also would go against any thriftiness that I believe in with those lights. Could we retrofit them someplace else, at a homeless shelter,
Sure.
anywhere? Is there some place where those lights could be used?
Through the chair, I think that's a great question. I don't have an answer for you, but I can certainly look into it.
I probably should have asked that
Sure,
while Mr. Fahey was here, but
That's okay.
thank you.
I will check with them, definitely.
Can I ask a question about bus applications? They need to be in your office by May 1st, not postmarked May 1st. They
Mr.
need to
Didi,
be-
I will, through the chair, I will turn to you.
Through the chair, May 1st on
They must be here.
on the desk, yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Which is very reasonable considering.
It is very
only one-
reasonable. I'm not
We've been
suggesting
talking
that it's
about
not. I
it
just
for
think that we
3
want to
months,
make it very clear.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Not only that, we're doing so good at this point
Yeah.
with
We're
the
doing it.
application, so.
If I see this one more time,
That's a
I'm actually
change.
going to fill mine out. I'm just kidding. This was a long time ago.
You're gonna be the last one to put on the desk?
We have a meeting that night, so...
There you go.
Oh,
That's
good.
true. That's true.
But it's not by
Jeez.
midnight.
Does that
It's
Close of business.
close of business.
My
Well,
business,
if
for
he
the
wants
chair,
the bill schedule signed up on-
my business day.
Then that would be
Oh,
midnight.
that would be midnight then, yeah.
Good to go.
Moving on to the...
Just a reminder about the strategic plan, and continue to open that up. If there are any community members who have interest in joining us, we would certainly welcome them doing so, and that too will be added to the notification tomorrow.
Any responses?
I did list in here, so we've got a few community members. It is very much right now a school committee, administrators. We have a number of teachers who have expressed interest, but there are some parents as well.
Oh, there are on the backside. I
They are.
apologize, I didn't
And-
see that.
And
Okay.
some of our administrators serve dual roles. They're also community members and parents in the district. But we certainly have room for more
You
to
want-
add.
Okay.
We do.
We will now move on to new business. We took care of the price change request with Ms. Pitson. Now discussing the meeting prior to town meeting on the 7th.
What we've generally done in the past is post for a meeting at 6:30 prior to town meeting and have that available, so with your approval, we will go ahead and do that. Okay, that's what I had assumed. And then upcoming events, as Mr. Laurie, Chairperson Laurie said earlier, the Bryn Mawr Community Reading Day was today. Senator Moore was there as well, a number of community members. Julia Bancroft's is tomorrow. Kindergarten screenings are coming up, and we continue to be well planted in this year, but also planning very strategically for next year as well.
Does anyone have anything in new business? I actually do, briefly, and this is something you wanted to put on in the next meeting, or we can entertain a motion now. I received a call from someone in regards to utilizing the high school baseball field. And this person had researched that the field was open, no one was using it. It's, I believe, grammar school kids. And it's like kind of like a travel team. And half the team is made up of Leicester children, and half the team, or a little bit more than half, is Auburn. So when they came and they spoke to utilize the field, it's $250 an hour, because our policy is 80% of the team has to be from Auburn. So I'm putting it out there at the request of this person that maybe we rethink this and change the policy to reflect 50% of the team has to be, because they got half the team there. And what they're doing is they practice once a week in Leicester. There's no fee, they let the Auburn kids play, and they just want to practice one day in Auburn. And it's not a scheduling conflict when they want to use it as far as other leagues that are 100% town operated or high school.
I personally, and no, I don't approve or disapprove of the request. I would really like to put this on as an agenda item, just because I'd like to take a look at the policy again.
And that's fine. That's why I bring it up under new business.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to put it on as an agenda item.
We do
for us
have
to
other
discuss.
baseball fields in Auburn, right?
I don't know if they're being utilized, if that's the scheduling problem, because I'm sure they would do that as well, or if there's a fee for them as well. I'm not sure. I just know I received this call and they had done this research and found that half the team is Auburn, and it's just a lot of money.
Can I ask a question before we decide whether we want to put it on an agenda item? Dr. Brunel, have you been contacted?
I have. They actually, well, I shouldn't say through me directly, went through Mr. Garno, which is the proper channel, and he was the one who reported what the fee would be, the $250 an hour, which had been set.
And so you haven't gotten a phone call asking for there to be some sort of reconsideration of this? Is this the first you've heard of this?
No, actually, Chairperson Lurie did make me aware of it and his intent to bring this up. My understanding is it's 53% Auburn students and 47% Leicester students. So the school, without a change from the school committee, I really don't have the leeway to make that change or make that accommodation.
And that's why I'm bringing it up here.
I don't know if we want to wait and redo the whole policy, that's fine with me. But the thing is, I think anybody from 50% on that are Auburn residents shouldn't have to pay. That's my personal opinion.
That's why I want to make it an agenda item, because I think we all have different opinions on this, so I don't think it's something I can make a decision. If I had to vote now, I'd say no.
I don't have a problem with that, but that's my personal opinion.
I think their only concern was just that they're
trying to use it now.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That's why I bring it up now without asking it to be put on the agenda.
Yeah.
So that's why I bring it up now, just to, I was asked and I did, it is a.
And Mr. Laurie, I think, I'm sorry, Liz, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I don't want to approve something and then all of a sudden we're going to get this rush from all these other, you know what I mean? I think if we're going to be changing policy, I really think it's something that needs to be on the agenda and discussed.
Okay.
And I understand their timing, and we're not meeting for another 3 weeks now, so they're going to lose 3 weeks, and I
think
can
that's why I bring it up
understand
now.
that, but.
And I think I agree with Mrs. Gibbrey, but I also am thinking about other teams that might have been turned down and they just didn't have, they just didn't come forward and ask us to reconsider. I need more thought and I need more information before I can make a decision like that. So I would agree. I think it needs to be an agenda item. And maybe I understand that there's a timing issue, but maybe we want to look at this going forward for other potential teams that may be coming down the road. So I have no problem with it being an agenda item, even if we couldn't do it in time for this team.
Okay.
So we'll put it on for May 1st. Okay?
So we can now move on to the business and financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item, again, the omnibus approval transfers. You should have in front of you 2 sets of transfers, numbers 1 and 2. These were actually done about a week and a half ago, and they have since been posted. And again, as you know, we're in the process now. We're well into the 4th quarter, kind of on the home stretch of the fiscal year, and beginning to address some unanticipated needs and reappropriate funds in other areas. And if I may anticipate a question, actually I posted these late this afternoon. There's under the business office link, there's a separate folder, FY13 omnibus approval transfers, and they're there. They're not posted as you see here in front of you. I give you the rationale, but it's a munis report. Once the transfers are posted, and so they're all up there as well. Since I did these, I haven't done any in the past week or so, and I'll have updates provided to you for our next meeting.
I do have one concern on this, if I may ask. I'm just looking at the high school guidance supplies. They had a $5,500 that, I know guidance, and this time of year they've got college preparedness going on and things like that, so it was okay to pull that dollar figure from their budget, yeah, and they're still in good shape?
They are.
Okay.
Yes,
all
through
right.
the chair.
Okay, thank you.
The next item, and this goes back to our discussion earlier this evening. As you know, the warrant has long since closed for the annual town meeting, and Mr. Kazanovich is in the process of preparing for the town meeting. He did ask me a question about a week or so ago relative to the McKinney-Vento transportation reimbursement, our article here. It's Article 3. And his concern then, and he said he would be happy to work with me and work with us, is, will the money come in? What's the latest and greatest on this? And in essence, I can only share with him, and what I've shared with you is what the DESE shares with me. After Ed and I spoke, I did speak with Jay Sullivan, who is Director of School Finance at the DESE. And as of now, the game plan, again, for these dollars is that these are considered general fund revenues. And unless there is an appropriation by the governing body, in this case town meeting, they would remain in the general fund. The value that I have represented here is the value that I reported on my FY12 year-end report, Schedule 7, line 4030. So that's the backup. There were some discussions that perhaps when these funds, if they were to become available, that instead of being general fund revenues, that districts might receive them through a grant, for example. It's an evolving process, and again, as Senator Moore noted, the genesis to these funds goes back to a survey by State Auditor Bump in October of 2011, and the end result of that survey was a value of $11.3 million in the state's FY12 budget, and there were 9 seat cuts back in December. Kind of a long story short, what I'm recommending to you is that this article remain the same as you brought forward, the $12,917. Given the information that I have now, and again, with a MASBO meeting last week, we weren't told anything different, that these would be treated as general fund revenues, and similar to our Medicaid dollars, for example, which are general fund revenues, but every year we bring forward an article for an appropriation of $80,000, or, for next year, $112,000, that we would treat these the same. If in the interim, as Senator Moore noted, through the budgeting process, there should be changes, perhaps with the value, or perhaps this is just pulled out of the budget altogether, then you could pull the article on the night of town meeting. If there are changes in the disbursement of funds, and I become aware that next year these funds will be dispersed to districts through a state or federal grant, then you could pull the article. I don't have that information for you now, so my recommendation is that it remain the same.
I got a question, if I may. I'm not clear as to what Mr. Casanovich's objections are. I'm not quite sure I understand what his questions were.
He's concerned that the dollars may not come in, or that the dollars may not come in for the value, or that the dollars might come in a different venue, for example, perhaps a state grant. There are so many unknowns here, and his concerns are the same concerns that he and I have spoken about this past year when I made him aware of this. However, now that we've put it on the warrant for town meeting, requesting an appropriation of just under $13,000, is this still going to hold, given all the unknowns? And so, as of now, my answer is yes.
What would he, I'm sorry, Liz,
No problem.
what would he have, what, did he recommend to you what he'd like to see? Or he would like us not to even put the warrant, it on the warrant?
Through the chair, no. Ed is more than happy to work with us. He had thought, and again, in speaking, I'm sure to DOR, that there might be a possibility of districts receiving these funds through a grant. And as of now, that's not the case. That may be the case. That may change.
So is there a way to put some wording in here that says, if another source comes in, I mean, then we would...
Through the chair, the warrant is closed. I believe that, this will probably be addressed at town meeting,
Okay.
and that can be explained.
So they could amend the motion.
They could amend, they could
Okay.
pull it, yeah.
And again, the value of the backup is my year-end report, which has been audited and has been submitted to the DESI. It has passed muster, so to speak, so the numbers are a real number.
So that number, so it couldn't come in at 13.5, for example. It's like, you're certain it will be $12,917.
Well, that's the number that was reported on
Right.
the FY12 year-end report. We haven't
Right.
seen that money this year.
So what if we get more than the 12,917?
Similar to Medicaid, we would only, the overage would then go into the general fund. That's why this past fall, at the fall town meeting, we bumped up our appropriation on Medicaid, because in FY12, there was an appropriation of $80,000, and we brought in $122,000.
Right.
So thus we bumped that up.
Right.
Anything that is above the appropriation from town meeting goes into the general fund.
And we can then go and ask for the remainder of it, is what you're saying?
No.
We can't.
No.
Oh, I thought that's what you were alluding to. Okay.
No. That's why in FY13, the original appropriation for Medicaid was $80,000.
Okay.
Given the history of the past 3 years, our number for Medicaid had been $80,000 because of the change in billing and the change in services, et cetera. And again, given the information that we received, was to guesstimate lower receipts than what you've been receiving. And yes, the receipts were down from the historical 160,000 and plus, but the receipts were greater than the 80,000 that we have been requesting for the past 3 years, I believe, at the town meeting. So those overages went into the general fund.
Right.
So do we really need to take a vote on the vote we've already taken?
No. through the chair, you can just simply leave it. You've already sent these forward. Mr. Didi really wanted to keep you apprised that there had been communications.
The next item is, again,
We don't need, do we, through the chair, Dan, I would think that, because they've already
They-
sent this forward, right? As
Yeah.
a- Okay.
my recommendation is to keep it as is.
Is, yeah.
The next item, again, it's a year-to-date budget report, and I actually ran this last Friday. This budget report does reflect the transfers, the omnibus approval transfers, numbers 1 and 2. They're in here as well. And again, excuse me, we are on the home stretch of the fiscal year. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Speaking of Medicaid, just want to make you aware that we did receive, or actually Dr. Bernal received an email notification on April 3rd of a payment of $23,000 and change for our Medicaid account. And I just made a notation there. It's an email notification. We have not received the funds yet. There hasn't been the wire transfer to the town's depository account yet. And as you can see from the history that I've given you, typically in the month of May through the end of the fiscal year, when our dollars begin to, significant dollars begin to come in. As you can see, last year, the last day of the year, just under $83,000 and change, $662.65 came in 11. Just at the end of May, just under $76,000 came in. So using that history, and again, these past several years, given the changes in the billing, the dollars tend to roll in the last quarter of the year. The last item, just to make you aware, our student activity accounts, they were audited in the latter part of March by Scanlon and Associates, March 26, 27, 28. We had 2 auditors here. I just received his report yesterday, and so I haven't had a chance to go through it and digest it. And I will share that report with you at the May 1st meeting. At my request, the focus of their energy was on both the middle school and the high school, just because of the volume of activity at both the middle school and the high school. There is very little activity at the primary schools. So I'll have that report for you on May 1st. Typically, when I get the report, I'll read it, I'll study it, I'll digest it, and then we'll go back and forth, and we'll talk about things, and we'll work out drafts, and before the final document is released to you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I think at the last meeting, I asked if we could look into having an audit done before the new business manager comes in. Will we have some information about that?
I should have some for you at May 1st. Mr. Didi and I have spoken about that, so I'm trying to get some information.
And I say that only because I feel that it's a good policy to do when you switch your business managers. I'm not suggesting that I feel anything is wrong and that we needed to have it.
Right. Yep.
Can we move on to policies, I believe, at this point, if you're finished?
Thank you.
And we only have one left, which is the school lunch.
The meal charge policy, this actually codifies the procedures that we have and use in place, and it is my recommendation. I'm sorry I didn't bring this forward when Mrs. Pitson was here. Mr. Didi actually put this together with her in the review, but it is my recommendation that you approve it on first reading.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve policy EF, meal charge policy on first reading.
Second.
Discussion?
I do, please.
Yes.
Dr. Bernal, do you think on page 1, at the bottom, where it says balances owed, you refer to a couple of other policies? Do you think that those should be listed under your references on the last page? Like, don't we do that
They
with
should
that
be,
policy?
yes. No, that's a good point, they should be.
Okay, so if we could put that, and I mean, that was my only thing, is if we're referring to other policies, I'd like to have them referenced there.
to amend the motion in a second?
You should amend it with changes. Amend your motion in the second.
I amend my motion to say that we add necessary language in the balances owed category.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye is a vote. Good catch.
That was good.
Very nice.
We do not have to go into executive session,
Oh, we don't?
so I would entertain a meeting to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There's a vote. Good night, everyone.
Good night.